really got to try on that left-hand side. What happened?
Oh, but I've gone up and over and bloody head over biscuit. It wasn't enough stability there for myself, but no, I was busting for a bit of meat this game. It didn't seem to work out.
Hello, cheers, and welcome to the Scrum of the Earth podcast, the weekly show for news, reviews, great interviews, and so much more all about the world of rugby. My name is David Lawrence. I'm an American rugby fan who follows the game wherever I can find it all over the globe. If you'd like to get in touch, I'm easy to find on all your socials. You can always just drop an email to thescrumoftheearth@gmail.com. Well, as you have no doubt deduced, this is not your regular weekly episode, but is yet another hybrid weekly / bonus episode. This time I'm thrilled to announce the return of two pod favorites, and favorites of mine personally, in fact, here to slightly belatedly preview the European competitions. It's the world's kindest prop, Mr. Craig Manson, the Craig Man himself, and of course, self-styled Tory, Jonny McGinty. Jonny, what is your favorite material to use for elbow patches on your tweed blazers?
Has he stitched me up because I was late? Is that what's happening here?
No, as a regular listener of the Scottish Rugby Pod, it's a staple in your show that you get called Tory at least 2 or 3 times per episode. So I'm just trying to be one of the guys.
Fair play. I had a very, very, very Tory outfit on at my work's Christmas party on Friday night. But the vibe of it was ruined by the woman at the table next to us mistaking me for a waiter. So swings and roundabouts.
You can lean into that, though. It's possible. So you had mentioned that there's some crazy things going on in the McGinty household in terms of decorating. It sounds like, have we ended an era and entered a new one? What's going on?
Yeah, it's Christmas lights and tree night in the house. So that's why I was late. I was out buying new decorations, and my decorations reign of terror has been ended because for the last 10 years we've had a green and gold Christmas tree in my house. And that was at my insistence. And Craig will tell you, I'm pretty sure you can work out that like decorating is not really my thing, and colour schemes are particularly not my thing. But I was very, very insistent that we were having a green and gold Christmas tree, which we've had for the last 10 years. And it wasn't until about 2 or 3 years into having it, we were decorating the tree on a Sunday night. And I was watching the Packers at the same time. So we had the tree up beside the TV, and I had my Packers jersey on, and I was watching the Packers, and my wife, in the third year of having this colour scheme, which I was so determined I was having, it's like looking at the TV, looking at me, looking at the tree, looking at the TV, looking at me. I was like, I've been busted, I've rumbled here, and that's it. That's the end of green and gold. So we're on to
she was like, did I accidentally marry a cheesehead?
I mean, she knew that. I don't know how she didn't put 2 and 2 together when I was like, green and gold is what we're having for the Christmas tree, and I'm having no arguments.
I had no idea of this side of you. I didn't know you were a Packers fan.
Huge Packers fan.
Really?
I used to play American football when I was younger.
Really? Wow. Is it on your bucket list to make it to a game at Lambeau? It's an absolute cathedral of football.
My number one bucket list entry. I've been putting money away since we got pregnant with our eldest. And I found out it was going to be a boy. I've been putting money away every month, so I've got enough when he's 21 for us to go to Lambeau.
Wow, that's amazing.
Right at the top of the list.
Craig, ever been to an American football game? I know you like baseball. Are you an NFL guy too?
No, I've never really been a big fan. Although I have watched a few of the documentaries on Netflix, etc. But never really got into it at all. The only reason I got into baseball was because my uncle over in Canada, when we were over, when I was sitting in the basement watching the baseball with him, used to sneak me a beer when I was about 14, and I felt so adult. So that's where the love of baseball came in. And then luckily, a couple of years ago, I was in Toronto visiting my family, and got to go to the Rogers and watch the Blue Jays win, and that's kind of been my situation. Although I don't have a tree decorated like them, unfortunately.
My mom is a huge baseball fan, so every single time my family would go anywhere, if there's a baseball team there, we would go to them. So I've seen, the Orioles in Baltimore and the Angels in California, and I saw the Expos in Montreal when that still existed and stuff. So it's been cool. Wrigley Field gotta still be my favorite. That place, it's unlike any other stadium.
I'd love to go to Wrigley Field. I went to Coors Field when I was in Denver. That was amazing.
Oh yeah. Yeah, my brother lived in Denver for a while and made it to several of those. Anyway, we're not here to talk about baseball or American football unless you want to talk about Louis Rees-Zammit. And anyway, that was fun to talk about
Nope.
that.
No, thank you.
We've just now covered all his highlights in the NFL, so that was fun. Thank you both so much for coming back on. I love the European competitions. I love getting our previews down to look back later and see how incredibly wrong we were. Jonny, on a scale of Ali Price to Duncan Weir, what's your enthusiasm level for the European Cups this year?
Significantly higher than it was this time yesterday. I'll tell you that much. Nice start for Glasgow last night. So yeah, I'm quite excited actually. Looking forward to it now.
Craig, same question, but your scale is Duhan to Akker van der Merwe.
Well, I love the competition. I absolutely love the competition. I love watching it. I love the idea that Edinburgh, Glasgow, or another smaller team can go up against the big teams in France, and I've loved it. I've loved every minute of the competition. So I even get excited about the Diddy Cup, the whatever they call it now, the one that Edinburgh are in this season. I really enjoy the Challenge Cup. I really enjoy both. I was very lucky to go and watch the final of both the Challenge and the European Cup when it was at Murrayfield. And I've loved every minute of it. So I enjoyed it.
Everyone rags on the Challenge Cup, but I love it anyway. First of all, it's just teams you never get to, it's matchups you never get to see, and then you mix in these other teams like the Cheetahs. I always am rooting for the Cheetahs in the Challenge Cup because like they don't even have a home, and then they go and win 3 games, and they're like, "Where are we staying tonight, you guys?" Like, I just think that's really cool. That despite them endlessly tinkering with the format. Like, I just love both of these cups, I think mostly because there's no equivalent in American sports at all. Like, the Patriots don't stop playing in the middle of the season to go up to Canada to play the Toronto Argonauts, but this is probably ordinary in soccer-loving nations like your own, right?
I think it's more I absolutely and utterly don't follow soccer, so I'd have no idea whether the smaller teams get to play the bigger teams. But for me, it's the fact of, when I was younger, you didn't have so much TV presence, and you used to hear about these teams in France, these juggernauts of teams in France that would win it every year, and there were these phenomenal characters that played for the teams, and they would, you have the opportunity to see them come over and play your team, and I just love the fact that it's across championship competition, so we can have. I know this year we don't, but we can have Edinburgh playing Gloucester. You can have Glasgow playing Sale Sharks. You have Glasgow going to Toulon. I think you're going to Toulon next week, Jonny. Stuff like that is just what you want to see. You want to see the best teams in Europe play each other. It's just sexy rugby.
Jonny, as one of only 2 or 3 people on Earth who understand the format of this competition, apparently, according to all pundits, can you tell us, what are we looking at this year? Did they change it again? Like, how many teams from each pool are going to advance? Which teams are going to go down to the Challenge Cup if they don't make the knockouts? Can you sort of put it in a nutshell for us how it's going to work this year?
It's pretty solidified now, and it's so solidified that even though it doesn't really make sense and it is a bit stupid, they've copied it for the Champions League in soccer this year. So they've kind of gone for like the bigger pools, more cross-border team sort of thing. Champions Cup, as far as I can tell, stays the same. There's 6 teams in a pool. The top 4 go to the last 16. The 5th place team goes to the Challenge Cup, and the 6th place team is out. And then I think most of the teams from the Challenge Cup go through, plus 4 teams from the Champions Cup, and then anybody who's out by then is out. So, and then I think we're still doing a last 16 in the Champions Cup, which is the one bit I don't really like. But I think that's just too many games. But it's a chance for Glasgow to get more knockout games. So
that's true. Well, of course, we'll start with the Champions Cup. we started yesterday with Bath versus La Rochelle. It was disgusting out. The comms said it would be an absolute dogfight out there tonight. Jonny, do miserable conditions ever actually favor one side? Like, they always act like teams that are more used to rain are going to be better able to play in it, but is that actually true?
Yeah, I feel like people say that all the time, and it's like, yeah, it rains more here than it does in La Rochelle, so that works for Bath, or like this team's more forward oriented, so it works better for them. I don't think I've ever seen anyone play well in conditions like that. Like, it was miserable. And I've played in conditions like that, Craig played in conditions like that, and I don't think it really matters who you are. Like, you just try your best to hold onto the ball and you don't chuck it too far and you see what happens. I don't think there's like a magic recipe for that. I think you just kind of do what you can, really, and that's why the game's like that.
Well, in this one, Craig, the word nutmeg came up twice in the first 2 minutes. Have you ever actually gotten high off a nutmeg?
I have no comment to that, David. Every time you say something, one thing in the podcast, you catch me out, and I kind of go, "What the hell?" The thing is, and this is the problem I have, and it's all around Finn Russell. And we're at a point now. We as Scottish fans love Finn Russell for everything from his sheer greatness as a 10, his laid back ability, that nothing really seems to faze him, and the ability and the fact that he's like one of us. He turns up in his Aston Martin to a local bakery and ends up eating the macaroni pie. That's that sort of thing for us. We love.
Hang on, which bit of that have you done?
Let's just say that the closest thing I had was an Aston Martin T-shirt on when I went to the Baines Bakery, but that's a different story. But
that counts. That counts.
But for me, the media tend to go a bit crazy about him, and everyone starts thinking he's a trick. He's full of tricks and this and that and the other, and he's this magical player who is how can I put it? He's up there as one of the best players in the world because he's mercurial and he's nobody knows what he's going to do and this. So whenever something happens and a ball goes between someone's legs that he's kicking the ball at, everyone's like, oh, Finn Russell's nutmegged another player, and oh wow, that's amazing. It was just about the ball, he says he's kicking the ball all the time. So it's half and half. I love the whole nutmeg thing. It's great, wonderful. He's done a great job. But let's just settle down and let's just see how the game goes. Because, as we know, no matter what phenomenal 10 you've got, La Rochelle will muller you in any way they possibly can.
Well, Jonny, when you leased your first townhouse in Bath, did you ever park any of your Aston Martins next to Finn's by accident?
I'm actually more of a Bugatti man myself, to be honest.
Oh, that's fair.
He's got an old Land Rover that he sits and he wears his Barber jacket and his black cap. That's what it is.
A Defender.
An
old Defender. I did go to that party with a tweed waistcoat on Friday night, by the way.
Well, no comment.
Pixar didn't happen.
I'll send you it later.
Thomas Dunn actually got the start for Bath. I tend to call that guy the Dungeon Master because you just look at him and he plays D&D. And you can tell it's always got to be at his house. Like, he won't play unless everyone comes to him. It seems obvious, right?
My thing is, I just worry about him because every time I see him when he's playing for Bath, he's bleeding somewhere. Yeah. I'm just thinking to myself, does he get a blood transfusion every time he comes off the field? Because he's always just dripping of blood.
This is literally the next note I had because, of course, he was bleeding from the head in the first few minutes, but nobody ever did anything about it because it was raining so hard. It just kept getting washed away. So people were like, "Should we?" He's fine.
I'm always confused. This is the thing, right? I'm always confused because, we talk about the whole thing with blood, and we know why we don't want to be, having blood around our mouths and our ears, etc., especially someone else's blood from around our mouths and our ears. And then I see someone bleeding, and there's always, it's usually us props. There's usually someone else's blood all down your top or all over the side of your head, etc. And you think to yourself, surely that's not meant to happen. Surely they should be stopping the game and tidying this up, because I don't really want somebody else's blood on me. But that might be just me being a bit weird. I don't know.
Well, as Nelson Muntz once said, "You made me bleed my own blood." Well, at one point we got a great shot of Weenie Antonio's underwear. It was almost elegant. Johnny, which player's underwear is your favorite?
I like Sione Tuipulotu's bright purple ones. He wears the bright purple Glasgow Children's Hospital ones, which I quite like. Grant Gilchrist's got a good line in ball bags as well, doesn't he, Craig? Is it bright orange that Gilco wears?
Yeah. He's got a fantastic pair of Edinburgh bright orange ball bags. And then,
he's always got good ones.
Wouldn't it be funny?
And I'm not going to be painted into saying Marcus Smith's Philippines flag ones because they're stupid.
Wouldn't it be funny if you got a glimpse and somebody was wearing a different team's underwear? It's like, wait a second, are you going to Racing next year?
Oh, believe me, just there's plenty of gammons over in England that are upset that Marcus Smith has Philippines anywhere near his underwear.
What? English rugby fans getting upset about something? Come on.
Sorry, my mistake. I've just, how dare I?
So it was 20-24 heading into the final quarter. Side note, where do you two stand on the creep of NFL terminology into rugby comms? Like, I mean, the quarters thing, it's kind of obvious, but like, I hear people complaining about it all the time. Like, oh, they shouldn't be saying the red zone. They shouldn't be saying quarter and this and that. Are either of your knickers in a twist about this?
Nah, it doesn't bother me too much. I feel like we might have a different opinion, though.
Yes, you decided to get rid of us many, many years ago. We should not be letting any more of your stuff coming over this side of the water. Just you keep it to yourself, young, and especially coming up with what you've got going on next year, you can keep more American stuff over there. I tell you, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, there was an American thing that you were really annoyed about. So, one of the Glasgow players do something that really annoyed you. Something American-y.
What was that?
I'll find it. I would find it right now. Something was driving Craig mental because it was too American.
Well, nothing actually.
Carry on and I'll find it.
Yeah. Nothing happened to scoreline after that. It was 20-24 in biblical conditions, but a good game. Craig, a good start to the weekend, a good start to the new cups. Do you think?
Yeah, you can't. Okay, the game had plenty of tries in it, and it had plenty of scores in it. I honestly, and again, I'm going to sound like an absolute fanboy, but you cannot not smile when you have on a Friday Night Lights game at the Rec in the UK, you have the powerhouse La Rochelle team, and you have Bath, who are currently riding high in the Premiership, together playing a game. Just absolutely fabulous. And Bath are well known; they've been European champions before, and they've got a lot of heritage as well. So you can't. It was a spectacle.
I saw a fist pump
Glasgow's
from Johnny
URC
there.
champion rings, by the way.
That's it. Yes.
That's what annoyed Craig.
Yes.
Really?
I had to go back to the group chat and look, but that's what it was. Glasgow got rings for winning the URC championship.
Is that not normal?
They all got themselves URC championship rings. It's not a thing. They should. I didn't. Excuse me. If you are reading my comments a little bit different, Johnny, because what I said was, I don't have a problem with the.
What you said was, I can tell you, the last thing that the sport needs is anything else imported from the US, is what you said. I just went.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, I got it. Especially. And then the thing is, though, that's what I've just said. I said about that a couple of weeks ago, mainly because it was because of Glasgow, and then I'm giddy because Iona Mar is coming over to Bristol, and I'm all like, yippee! Iona Mar's to Bristol! They're all excited about it.
We're going to go. We're going to go to the Tigers game on the 18th of January.
Well, of course, that is basically the only way to actually see her play, because the thing they didn't anticipate was, maybe people are going to want to watch these games online somewhere. So, yeah, seeing her. I think there's 2 games that are going to actually be available to stream in her entirety, the entirety of her contract there. Like, good job, guys. They've managed to create a new position for a social media manager. Have they decided to put these games somewhere so we can watch them? No. Great job.
Yeah, we get them live on TNT Sports. So, but again,
all the PWR or just one a week?
I think it's one or two. We don't get them all, but you get one or two over the weekend.
Yeah, where I am, it's one a week, and the Bears are listed twice from here to the end of her time there.
Fabulous.
Well, Sharks, they were hosting a clearly sacrificial Exeter team. I mean, Exeter have been bad this year, but they really sent the kids. Sharks did not. They said the full noise. They looked like they might steamroll them. Chiefs gave up 2 yellows in the first half, but somehow were only down 26-14 at the break. Got a little crazy later on. Sharks were up 36-14, and then it was a yellow to Eben Etzebeth, who, by the way, has been really enjoying the recent law variations. He must have charged down like 8 kicks in the last 4 weeks. What a revelation that's been for him. But then Emil van Herden, he got a yellow, and then I think it's Edouan Keita. So Sharks were playing with 12 players for the last 10 minutes. Is this the problem with the Sharks? Like, is it all discipline like last year and this year? Is this their Achilles heel?
Well, Exeter didn't manage to score against 12 players, so it can't have been that bad.
They did not.
I enjoyed that very much.
To be fair, it was past a lot of their bedtimes.
12 players.
This is a problem again, and it's and you have to you have to admire the Exeter Chiefs team because they get involved and they get stuck in and they're not kind of they keep turning up and working hard on the pitch, but you have to giggle up your sleeve a little bit because Exeter have been just a bunch of bams for such a long time with their stupidity, and then their especially the one that cracked me up was that their owner came out. Steve Diamond come out with Newcastle saying that Newcastle's needing an injection of cash and they've got a problem with funding, and then Tony Rowe, the owner of Exeter Chiefs, comes out and says exactly the same thing, and you just kind of think to yourself, they were out maybe 4 or 5 years ago when Saracens got sanctioned for breaking the cap, and they had this smug, we managed to field our team and stay within the budget, and we're the only ones that are making money, and it's like, yeah, you had to then let go of all your good players and all your big stars, and now you're still saying that you've got, Anyway.
I feel like Johnny and I have talked about him.
He's definitely you're sponsored by a field.
Well, he's definitely the Dan Snyder of rugby owners for sure. I think Johnny and I have talked about this before.
100%.
Saracens, of course, they were hosting the Bulls. They mentioned this was only the Bulls' 12th appearance in this competition, while Saracens had made the finals 4 times and won it thrice. Do stats like that matter? Or to me, it's like, no, this is a new season. The fact that they've only played 12 times has nothing to do with it, because it's not like they missed out because they weren't good. They're just new. So do those stats matter?
I don't think so. I think because, we're now in the 30th season of the Champions Cup, and rugby is so different now to how it was 30 years ago. So you can look at teams and say, oh yeah, these teams have won 3 Champions Cups, whatever, but they could have won 3 Champions Cups in essentially a different game to what we're playing today. So, Saracens obviously have recently been very, very good. I don't think it makes a massive difference. I don't think it's as huge as it is in maybe you would say soccer, where the rules aren't as different, the playing field's not as, and I mean that as like a metaphorical playing field, not the actual pitch, is like not as different as it was in the recent past. Like, rugby's laws change all the time. 30 years ago, players had only just become professional. Even the way that like strength and conditioning has changed, players are completely different to what they are. So I don't think you'd want to compare the entire history of the competition to say, we've won this many trophies, because it's not the same as it was.
It is one of those weird things with rugby history where it's like, hey, we won this competition 3 times back when tries weren't worth any points.
Yeah. And props played the whole game, and Then there is one slight thing though, and I always find that there is no substitute for a winning culture and a winning, a team that has won it before. That you just need to look at Toulouse. The millions and millions of euros that are spent for them also helps. But they just have a win. They know how to win. And I think Saracens are very much, because Saracens have gone through their own sort of change. They've lost a lot of their big players. They've lost a lot of their expensive players. And they are going through it. People are, Newcastle beat them last week up at Newcastle, who, the bottom of the league, that beat Allport.
That was a shocker.
One of the biggest teams, so they have had their problems, but they know when it comes to European rugby, they know how to win, and I think that there's no substitute for that.
Well, of course, they did win pretty handily. Sorry, go ahead.
So the other thing I was going to say that you kind of have to factor in is, because of the way the contracts work and the way that the fixtures are scheduled and blocks of internationals and things, there are mandatory rests for players, and so a lot of the results around this time of year comes down to what competition are you focusing on, what competition are you favouring. And I think Saracens look like they're probably leaning more towards Europe than they are towards the Premiership this year. Because, Sale, for example, will come on to Glasgow, I would imagine. We're missing players that probably would have made a massive difference to Sale last night, but they'd chosen to give them their mandatory rest for this game rather than last week in the Premiership. Edinburgh, the opposite. I'd put all of their players, they put a full-strength squad out in the URC last week, and then more of an academy squad in the Challenge Cup. So it's a whole other element that I think that you maybe don't have to consider in a lot of other sports, is like you've got two massive competitions and your players are limited by contract to a certain amount of games. So which competition are you focusing on? Which competition you're going to put your strong players out in? Where are you going to give them the rests and stuff? So there's a lot.
I love that element of it, because there's a whole extra, I think Bugs Bunny would call it strategery involved in there. Boy, I'm making all the references tonight. Boy, it's just, boom, fastballs left and right. As we mentioned, so Saracens did, in fact, run away with it. Bulls only scored 5 points. It was 27-5 at full time. It sounds like you already hinted at this. Jonny, are Saris real contenders for the European actual cup this year?
I think as much as Craig is right that they've lost some key players. They're not the squad that they were 4 or 5 years ago, but there's still some really, really good players there. And like he rightly pointed out a minute ago, if you want to talk about a winning culture, like Saracens have got a winning culture, and so I would never look past them for at least being in the later stages of the Champions Cup, I would think.
Craig, Itoje has become frightening again. For a while, it felt like he was in contention for one of the best players in the world, and then he kind of had a dip, and it felt like he had lost some of his powers, but I feel like he's reinvented himself and found new ways to be great. Am I onto something there, or do you think his time has passed?
It's a difficult one, because obviously there's a Lions tour coming up, so obviously people get reinvigorated because they want to go on the Lions tour. I think Maro Itoje has gone through a period of, and I'm not saying he has himself, but I think he started, and his team around him have started to drink the Kool-Aid of Maro Itoje, and he was talking about himself in the third person and doing all these different things.
Oops.
And I think
David doesn't like that.
Yeah, Craig is not happy with that either. But I think it just, he was starting to be talked about in the same breath as Lewis Hamilton and really, really massive sports stars. And I think when players start to believe their own hype, they start to drift. And I think that where he's realised that, almost like many people say, listen, stop talking about yourself and get back on the pitch and play. And I think that's what he's done. And I think he's starting. However, what I will say, and there's a lot of chat at the moment over here. I don't know how you're getting on over the sea, but there's a lot of talk about the British and Irish Lions, and there's a lot of talk of chat. Okay, well,
we don't have that.
There's a lot of talk of. I just thought you might be interested, but
I'm interested. Me personally, I'm interested.
and there's a lot of talk about the captaincy for that, and so Maro Itoje keeps coming up, but he's had the opportunity to be England captain. They've not chosen him. And there was a lot of talk of him going to be the Lions captain, and they didn't choose him. So I think it's just a matter of Maro, get on the field and do what you need to do in your position. And I think that's what he's doing at home.
Northampton versus Cast. That was a bit of a boring one. It was 19-3 at the intermission. Absolute silence on the broadcast, by the way. No comms, no crowd, no ref mic, no nothing. And a 38-8 final score. Either of you care at all about this one?
Yeah, I watched the first bit because I am a Saints fan. But Stormers Toulon, I thought, looked like a more interesting game. So I watched it until Saints went 3 tries up, and then I was a bit like, I'll just go and switch on to something else. I have to say, though, given some of the commentary teams featured at the weekend, no comms is
silence was not the worst.
Silence is golden.
More silence, less Andy Good. Sign me up.
Yes,
yeah, absolutely.
Well, Jonny, your beloved Munster team, they faced off against the weirdly terrible drink boxes from Paris. I came into that one thinking it might be a bit of a blowout in Munster's favor. What were your expectations heading into that one?
I've watched European rugby for long enough to know that you would never put your money on a French team away in any European competition. We've spoken already about what competition do teams favour, how do they set out their squads and things like that. French teams do not give a shit about an away game in Europe. Never have, never will. Are just like an absolute bin fire when it comes to sending people who haven't even got a contract and that sort of thing. So I think I kind of expected Munster to win. I didn't expect Stad's fairly interesting try and make it a Royal Rumble and see what happens tactic. It was a little bit more comfortable for Munster than I thought.
I use Blow Rugby here to watch these things, and they showed the link to the replay. You can click on it, and then you click on it, and it shows you a black screen with a wheel spinning, and the timer is there, and it doesn't move, and you literally just can't watch it. So I don't actually know what happened. Craig, was I right? Was it a blowout from Munster, or what?
Munster took a hold of that one, and absolutely. The funny thing about it is Munster started off the mind game straight away by playing in pink, and when I started to watch the game, my wife went, "That doesn't look like a normal Stade Francais team," and I went. She says, Peter O'Mahony doesn't play for Stade Francais. I said, no, Munster in pink tonight, and Stade are in blue. But and then
every now and then I want it to be that the kit man accidentally put his red handkerchief in the wash and was like, oh crap.
Oh no, they're going to kill me.
Oh no, guys, this is the European kit. It's supposed to be that way.
Maybe that's what Graham Rimsky got fired for. maybe took the kit home at the weekend and dyed it red.
We warned you about that handkerchief. So we already kind of alluded to it. Glasgow, we're playing Sale Sharks. Jonny, did you see the shot of Franco smiling and laughing in the booth before kickoff? I've literally never seen that level of emotion from him. The game hadn't even started. I was like, is that the problem? Is it because the game hasn't started, so he's allowed to show human emotions?
Yeah, it was a really weird one because I saw it and I was a bit like, Franco, what you doing? Very weird, but plenty for him to spoil about by the end, for sure. Yeah, sorry, he's off back to doing the lights.
So George Horn, he got through for the first try of the night. It took only 3.5 minutes. Craig, since you also love Munster so much, I'm just kidding. Since you're a huge Glasgow fan, how good is George Horn right now? I don't know why. Do I have an irrational love for him or just the correct amount of love for him?
It's a difficult one. We both Jonny and I come from the same club that George Horn started his rugby. Both him and Pete Horn started the rugby with our club, and their father was the head coach of our club. So we have a lot of love for George Horn anyway. Where we're seeing a difference now is there's two things. First thing, I think he may have urinated in the Scotland coach's beer at some point because the Scotland coach doesn't seem to want to pick him very often, which I think is a travesty. But then there's other times when you see George playing, and when he plays, he's the complete opposite of a lot of the Scotland stars in Edinburgh. Sometimes George Horn has a bad game for Scotland. but he doesn't seem to have a bad game for Glasgow.
Mm.
And the Edinburgh Scotland players are totally different. They'll have terrible games for Edinburgh, and they bring out all the guns blazing for. I don't know. I honestly can't comment on George Horn's inner thoughts. However, he is a phenomenal 9, and he's a very attacking 9. And so if you want to force George Horn to be the sort of the 9 who kicks box kicks all the time and controls the game, etc., he's able to do it, but he doesn't do it to the nth degree. But if you want a 9 to take a game by the scruff of the neck and absolutely, make the defence have to work hard, he will do that. And and it seems to suit Glasgow's play.
So I'm so glad you brought up
without giving away too much. Oh, sorry, David.
No.
Without like.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Without giving away too much of our inner workings, at the club, we still teach everyone from like minis up to our senior men's scrum halves to be like, watch George Horn do what he does. Watch the support lines that George Horn always runs, because if you make a break and you play for Glasgow, you can be pretty much guaranteed that George Horn will be there when you either get tackled or have to pass the ball. Like the support lines that he runs are probably second to none in the URC, and
that's a great point.
Kind of carried that on into Europe last night. So,
and he's fearless, and he doesn't make business decisions. He's always like, okay, I'm going to lead with my face here, so
he got sin-binned getting in the side of a mall last night. Like,
I know.
What's he doing?
What are you doing here?
Well, and that was where he came. I think he played. I think it was either an under-20s game or it was one of his first games for Glasgow when he came out the under-20s, and he was seen to be into the back of a ruck. No, it wasn't a ruck; it was a maul, and he was helping the maul, trying to push the maul over the line, and everyone kind of went, "Who is this guy?" He's tiny and he's a bit Dupont-esque, as he's I've forgotten the film. It just completely goes out my head, but it's just this guy going, he's a strong little sucker, and he's just a strong little guy,
Well, I'm so glad you brought up Gregor's selection, because I recently developed a new Toonsy theory that I haven't had a chance to share with you guys. So George Carlin had this bit about sometimes you're in the grocery store and you have your cart and you have a bunch of food in it, and you kind of go over to a shelf and you start picking some stuff. And then when you come back, you kind of start to put things in the wrong cart, like somebody else's cart is there. And you're like, oh, geez. And you feel weird for a sec. But then you look in their cart and you look and you're like, ugh. Look what they eat. Ugh. And I just wonder, is that Gregor Townsend? Like, you probably have a friend who's like, oh, you should watch this show. It's really great. And then you try it and you're like, that show is really bad. And you go to their house and they're like, oh, you should listen to this song. And you're like, that song's terrible. Is Toonsy the friend who just, his taste is completely different? Where he's like, well, I've heard Finn Russell, but have you heard this guy? And you're like, dude.
He absolutely is. Finn Russell's currently the fifth, he was the fifth choice for Scotland. He
was. I think Toonsy had me ranked ahead of Finn for a little while there.
Yeah, well, well, he was so crazy. We all kind of looked at him and went, "Does he know something we don't? How does what?" But I think he's just, what's the word? Deranged at times. Anyway, that's another story.
Well, Glasgow pretty well kicked their butts. Jonny, though, how annoyed are you that this annoying kind of crappy Sale team managed to score 19 on your guys when it looked like it should have been a runaway?
Yeah, I think like there's definitely things there that we need to look at. At the same time, though, they have come away with nothing. We didn't let them score 4 tries.
That's true.
We didn't let them get close enough.
No bonus.
There was a couple of moments at the end where it kind of looked like this is getting a bit ropey. I think Glasgow have, in the last few years, been a little bit guilty at times of scoring a bunch of points and then going, well, that's it, job's done now. And then the next thing you know, you're actually winning by 4 points and you've let them sneak back in. So Glasgow did what they needed to do to make sure that Sale are going away with 0 points from that game, when there was definitely moments where it looked like they were going to get at least their 4 try bonus point. So it's an improvement, but I still don't think that they needed 19 points.
Well, we already mentioned this game. Stormers, they were home for juggernaut Toulouse. I was really impressed by the crowd. You know, I'm told the South African fans are still kind of metza on the European competition and are kind of like, can we just keep playing the URC for now? But there were so many people there. They were even sitting in the sunny seats, which doesn't usually happen. It did not go well for Stormers, though. There were a lot of niggle in this one. You know, so it was a bit dark, but there was a Stormers player got really badly hurt, and it put a stop to the game for a good long while. The broadcast kind of took advantage to show people grooving in the stands. And then, because they had more time to kill, they went to this, it was a weird, like, a new marketing thing. It was like an England-centric, rugby is really good and it's alive, and we definitely aren't deeply mired in financial insecurity kind of video. And then when they came back, they were carting Kiki Marabe off the field. It was not a good look. A lot of violence in this one. Did you guys enjoy this one, or was it a little hard to watch?
I enjoyed what I saw. I kind of, like I say, I started on the Saints game, and then I flicked over for a bit, and it was also my eldest's birthday yesterday, so we were kind of in and out, had family visit and stuff, and I was just kind of picking up what I could. But I enjoyed it. I really like Stormers. I enjoy watching Stormers a lot, and obviously, you know, when you're watching Toulon, like, some of the names on their team sheet is just wild. So nice to see a bit of sort of like an all-star team, and Stormers do a decent job at least winding them up enough to keep it close for a while. So I quite enjoyed it, actually, that one.
Craig, did you enjoy seeing Toulouse romp over the Stormers? By the way, all the headlines now are that this was catastrophic for the Stormers. They two of their players ended up in the hospital after this game.
Yeah, Toulon, first of all, I love their wet Nike black tops. That's very leathery. It is difficult. You know, you would have actually expected the Stormers to be putting some of your team to the hospital rather than Toulon. But Toulon have got some monsters playing for them, and they've always been known as a juggernaut of a team. So I enjoyed what I managed to watch. Unfortunately, we get Premier Sports are the carrier for the European Championship, and I was watching the catch up one, or it wasn't a catch up. It was midnight, and I was watching it. It was obviously a replay, and they got to about quarter of the way, or 40 minutes into the game, and they then cut it off and started playing football. So I was like, you're joking me, man. So I ended up didn't get to see the actual end of the game. Yeah, Toulon really, I'd like to see them. They went through a period of, they were absolutely amazing, phenomenal team. Then they went through a period of just being rubbish, and everyone falling out with each other, and they were one of these teams that everything, you know, if someone was going to get gouged, it was going to be Toulon that was going to do the gouging and stuff like that. And then they seem to have, they're starting to put themselves together, and they're getting themselves out the other side of it. And obviously the highlight was them beating Glasgow in the Challenge Cup. So, you know, they're getting back to it. They're getting back to it.
By the way, thank you both.
We spoke a bit about Tony Rowe and stuff earlier. It's like we tried our best. Murad Boujilal.
By the way, I definitely said Toulouse earlier, and both of you were very nice to not say Toulon. You mean?
Well,
I was preparing to be like, guys,
think about Toulon.
It was very tasteful. Thanks.
We try our best,
but no. Boujilal is one of the most insane people ever involved in rugby, and like,
yes,
when he was pulling all the strings at Toulon, some crazy stuff happening. And there was a game a couple of years ago. Do you remember a top 14 game where they lost? They maybe lost quite far away from Toulon, and he cancelled their plane and made them get the bus home.
Yes,
like he's a nutjob. He's an absolute lunatic. He was refusing to pay them for a while. There's a really famous story of Baki's Bota going into his office and hanging him out the window until he got his money.
I've heard that.
Which is like, if I was only going to pay one person, I might make it Baki's Bota. I don't understand why you'd hold his money away from him. They're an absolutely insane unit. And I quite enjoy it.
It's a weird thing because when somebody's holding you out a window and holding you by your ankles, there's probably a short list of people who you feel like, well, at least they're not going to slip and let me go. And Becky Spota has to be on that list, right? Like maybe Pierre Schumann. Like I'd feel like, oh well, at least he's not going to accidentally kill me.
Yeah, if I fall out of this window, it's definitely on purpose.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, at one point, the comms said that Dan Bigger was furious with the referee, and I simply couldn't believe that for 1 second. That outrageous.
Well, I have to say that Dan Bigger, it makes a change because he's usually furious with his other players.
Yes.
His other team members.
He wasn't allowed to call the ref a dickhead.
I had no idea that Kyle Sinclair had got to play for Toulon, by the way, until yesterday.
Yeah, I was exactly.
I didn't recognize him. I heard his name, and I was scanning the screen. I'm like, "Is that him? Is that him?"
I think he didn't have a number on the back of his shirt either, or the number
Right.
ripped off or something. But I just saw him coming in for the scrum. I'm like, eh? Is that eh? And then yeah, okay.
There were so many cards and injuries in this one. It was a victory for Toulon, 14-24. At the end, they named Baptiste Serin as the player of the match, and he was quoted afterwards as saying, "Which way did he go? Which way did he go?" Claremont versus Benetton also happened yesterday, and I swear I had it on my Challenge Cup list. I guess I just never give either of these teams any credit. But, of course, it was a blowout. Benetton, they got shut out 28-0. And by the way, side note here, they showed the setup ahead of time. They have the locker room shot where everyone's getting ready to go out there. And the locker room is pretty small. It's like a really narrow space. And it's all these oversized guys. So they're all kind of bumping into each other. And like, everyone's like, oh,
Do you know what I noticed yesterday?
Sorry.
And you just reminded me. The away team changing room at Franklin's Gardens compared to the Saints changing room is an absolute disgrace.
I love that
because they did the same changing room shots at the start of the Saints cast game, and exactly like you just described. And then you get to the Saints changing room and they've all got like their little cabinets with their names on them.
Their feet are up.
Like,
they have
trees of fruit and
ottomans
stuff in the middle. Unbelievable. I don't know if it's the same for Craig, but I haven't seen the Claremont Benetton game, but when I saw the score roundup last night, when a game finishes 28-0, I just assume that it's like it's being called off because somebody couldn't raise a team, because that's what happens in our like grassroots club games. If you can't get a team, you get a 28-0 win. So I saw the scores and I was like, what's happened to Benetton? How have they not got a team? It's really like it's just like a little like, mental thing that happens.
Yeah. This is. I'm going to invoke the John Anderson clause here. Because I constantly tell him that Benetton are a dangerous team, and
you and I have tried very hard.
We really have, and then Benetton come along. Oh, Claremont, Claremont aren't at the heights of their powers at the moment, and you think, oh, Benetton are really going to do a great job here. They're going to frighten them at least, and everyone's going to be talking about it, and it's just a 28-0 shutout. And just as Johnny says, it's like, was the game cancelled? Or because it's not like Benetton didn't have their amazing team players. They had their Italian stars there, and
they're
and
shambles. They're shambles this year.
It's just unbelievable.
I do think Claremont should lean into it one step further. If they have this tiny locker room, they should have a guy sort of dressed as like a Charlie Chaplin sort of, like 1940s comedy guy who sets up little glass vials all around the edges, and he's constantly going around going, oh, trying to stop them from falling as everyone's getting ready for the game.
You really don't want you don't really want the Italians going back to 1940. It wasn't really a good time for them.
Why? Have you heard something? I wasn't there. Did something happen? Didn't see that one coming. See, Craig, you're wrong.
I'm getting you back. I'm getting you back.
Thank you. I really value that. Northampton Saints, who I've never believed in, even when they were winning the premiership, they hosted Cast. It took the visitors until like 12 minutes left to score their first try. Northampton just kind of rolled. Johnny, you've already said you're a Saints fan. What is it about? Is it just me? Like, even when they're succeeding, I'm like, no, that's not happening.
Yeah, no, I kind of do feel the same. Like, I've seen Saints get to the playoffs quite a lot in the Premiership, and I'm always like, yeah, we're not going to win though. Getting to the playoffs is one thing. Actually, ever winning is another. So even in the final this year, even when Beno Obano got sent off, I was like, yeah, but they're still not going to win. I was genuinely surprised to see Saints win the Premiership this year. And I think, like...
That was a good final.
I've been burned by the Leinster game. That's my problem. 21-0 up in a European final against Leinster and still losing.
Well, the last match for me, I think, on Saturday was Racing versus my Harlequins. Jonny, actually, I was recently told, so in the Premiership, I've picked the Harlequins to support, and I was told recently that is the most Tory team to support. I didn't know that when I picked them. Do I need to reevaluate things here?
They've got Maserati parking at the Twickenham Stoop, so...
that's kind of.
I went to watch Glasgow in the last 16 of the Champions Cup last year. At
and you fitted straight in. You fitted straight in there, Jonny.
So many of them, and I'm not even talking about like old club members. I'm talking about like guys my age and younger wear those striped Harlequins blazers. There was hundreds of them about, and I was just like,
wow.
I don't like this at all. Like, I'm used to rugby being a bit Tory, but this is going too far.
David, I got a text from Jonny at that moment in time when he was in the stoop and he was watching them, and I'm not going to repeat exactly what he said, but he said, I am currently surrounded by the biggest amount of rugby somethings I've ever been in, and he says this is the most English thing I've ever seen. Well, you know, basically what he was trying to say is, if you imagine anything about English rugby supporters and you take it's like separating oil and water. If you skim off the really, really rubbish stuff at the top, that was surrounding Jonny at the top of the English rugby fans.
It's like if you went on to an AI program and went, show me the most English rugby fan, and then every time he showed you one, just went, more. After about time, you get the Harlequins fans.
You're like, co-pilot, add walrus mustache. Add...
Make it more English and more rugby. All right, more English and more rugby again. Again. It's unbelievable.
By the way, I do love the Racing Euro kit. It's really elegant, really simple. The gold logo just kind of makes it very nice. But Harlequins,
I like it.
It looked like they were wearing camouflage that was designed for you to blend in at like an ugly sweater party. I think you people would call them jumpers.
It's all right. At least they nearly all got them burned off before the game had even started. Did you see that?
No. What is this?
Racing are not. So Racing are not in the Disco Dome at the moment because obviously it was used for the Olympics. So they're in like a little stadium down the road, but I didn't put them off from bringing all their usual pyrotechnics and stuff that they would use at the Stade. Disco Dome, whatever it's called. And the Harlequins players and Racing players ran out through these like tunnels of Roman candles last night. And I'm talking about like inches. The Harlequins players are like ducking out the way as the flames are going off beside them. It's hilarious. I will find the video and I will send you it. It's unbelievable.
You can never be too uncareful with fireworks. I mean, what could possibly go wrong?
Oh, the French definitely subscribe to that. That's for sure. If you want anything crazy, go for it. You know.
By the way, sweaters, jumpers, I'm not happy with either of these terms. I think, Craig's already said the traffic should only be one direction, but I think we need a semi-permeable membrane where we can have our cultures continue to cross-fertilize, and I think we need a new word for this, because sweater never made sense. If you're sweating, you don't put on one, and the whole point is to avoid sweating, but jumper sounds like something you should stop wearing when you're no longer an infant, like a onesie. Can we come up with a new word that's good for all of us?
I've got a bit of a problem here, David, because in our vernacular over here when you play rugby, and for example, the Bath v La Rochelle game, we would say this is a great day for shoving the ball up the jumper and keeping it. And it's designed to be basically you want to keep the ball, so what you do is you shove that ball up your jumper and you don't want to give it to anyone. You don't want to be throwing it around. It's a physical game. So the problem I have is if you get rid of the word jumper in our transcontinental chats and
I see that.
I'm going to lose part of my vernacular. I don't know what to say. I'll have to come up with something else.
But you have jumpers in the line out. You already have. There's a separate meaning already in there.
Okay. Well, okay, I'll bend. I'm not for non-compromise.
So, gotta say, the weather really impacted the first round. Like, almost all these matches were pretty greasy. You know, is it good to watch these games when it's either pouring or snowing? Like, I love when it's snowing. I love watching games, especially when I'm comfortably at home. The only time I actually want to go to a game in the snow when it's our traditional Free Jacks St. Paddy's Day home opener, when it's always a blizzard. But what do you guys think? Rain games good? Rain games bad?
I like a weather game. Because then you get hilarious stuff, which we might come on to in a wee minute, like Wes Houston thinking he could slide for the line when he couldn't.
just stopped.
I think
I would love to hear the transcript from inside his head right then. He's like, I'm gonna crap.
Well, you see, and that's the thing, though. It's now you imagine, if you think to yourself, the way Johnny's described it, Wes Houston landing in the ground, expecting to slide in a nice muddy, watery slide of a grass pitch. It was a fake pitch that he was playing on down at Gloucester. So you're either going to burn your legs, or it's going to be so viscous that you are going to slide, but keep sliding into the car park. One of the two. Unfortunately, came across the one that burns your leg. But yeah, I love it. The problem I have is I hate watching a raining game or a bad weather game. I love playing in a bad weather game.
Oh.
I like playing in a rain game, especially when it gets to the end and I'm like, well, I don't have to wash my shirt, but you do.
Yeah,
it's funny because I was just going to say
80 minutes in a rain game and do absolutely nothing.
I was going to say, Craig, is that because you're a prop and that's useful? But Johnny being in literally the exact opposite side of the field, and you both like playing in the rain. That's really interesting to me.
Johnny's just likes playing in the rain so he can be spiteful and point at folk and laugh. Whereas I like playing in the rain because I like getting muddy, and I used to love a wet game because a mixture of things. In the scrum, you get a chance to really test someone's studs and make sure put pressure on them, and when you do all inevitably hit the ground at some point, it's not as hard, playing in the summer. I used to hate training in the summertime. We used to do pre-season in the summertime, and any time you'd have a contact session, you'd come away with your knees bleeding and etc. You just didn't want it. So a soft game is always fantastic. And a rainy game, it's one of those things. When you get wet and you're walking in the rain and you realise that you're just absolutely soaking, you can't get any wetter. And you embrace it, and that's where you are with a wet game, And plus, we get
the nice thing about playing on the wing in the rain is that after your fourth or fifth knock on, no one can see that you're crying, so that's always an advantage as well.
You're like the blood on Tom Dunn's head. But Johnny, you're fielding high balls theoretically at fullback in the rain. When you're looking up and trying to see where it's coming, isn't that a nightmare?
Oh, it's miserable. Yeah. I mean, it can't all be fun. But I do still enjoy it. No, there's definitely some elements, especially if you're playing in the outside backs. Playing in the rain can be miserable. Like Craig says, the forwards get it up the jumper, and then you just stand and watch for like 15 minutes. And then after 15 minutes of standing there, and your hands are freezing, and your hamstrings are tight, and you've done nothing, and the ball comes out, and you're expected to catch it and run. But do you know what you need to do as an outside back in a rain game? It's just like get stuck in. If there's a ruck near you, go and lie on it, get warm for a minute. Maybe
I was
offer up.
I was about to pull you absolutely apart there, Johnny, because I was thinking to myself, hang on a minute, Johnny's a typical back that actually what I want you to do is actually, as a coach, is get involved in the game, start running some lines, Johnny, not rather than standing with your hands in the pockets to the sides watching us.
So in Star Wars terms,
I've always liked the rain because
in Star Wars terms, the ruck is like the tauntaun, and you just need to climb in there despite the smell.
Climb inside and get warm. No, I like a rain game because you've got to go looking for jobs. Like you can't just stand on the wing. But you are right. Like trying to catch a kick in the rain is absolutely miserable.
I'm totally there for describing rugby in Star Wars terms. That's perfect, David. That's exactly what it is. That's what we used. You'd be freezing cold, and you go, "I'm losing the extremities of my body are starting to go blue." Where's the tauntaun? There's the scrum there. That'll do fine. Let's kill the ball.
I'm going to start describing scrum. I'm going to start describing scrums as the Moss Isley Cantina in that case. Just a bunch of weird, funny looking
File
people.
scum and yeah.
File scum. Thanks very much.
And of course, the phrase "I thought these things smelled bad on the outside" must come up a lot.
Because he doesn't like you. I don't like you either.
I think we might have missed our calling doing a Star Wars rugby show. Wow.
Oh,
we
man,
got to go. Maybe that would be very ox niche of us. I don't know why I even went there.
Oh my God, that came from the side there, man. That's a penalty straight away.
I know. That's a red card, I think. But maybe just a 20-minute red card.
No.
Well, it's been about an hour. If one of you could hit record, that would probably be a good idea.
Nice, excellent.
I figure we should probably quickly touch on the Challenge Cup, which, not to shortchange it. I do love it. It bums me out when other podcasts are like, the Challenge Cup, we didn't even need to watch that. We don't care. Some of it is great. Some of it not so great. Gloucester versus Edinburgh. The obvious question, who won the clash of kits? Edinburgh, they of course sent a very heavily rotated side, but I don't know. Do we like the kit? Do we not?
Well, I like the kit. I'm an Edinburgh fan, funnily enough. My son absolutely loves the kit. In fact, he prefers the orange kit and has orange. Whenever we talk about getting a new shirt, he says, "I want the orange one, please." Mind you, he did get the when you talk about the European Alternative Racing shirt. My son's got the orange and purple. Was it orange and purple one? I think that they had for last year or the year before.
I feel like you sent me a pic.
It was an Iron Brew. It was the Iron Brew shirt. It was the Iron Brew shirt. It was the same colours as Iron Brew. But Edinburgh have definitely pinned their colours to the mast with the Challenge Cup, because you can see that they are concentrating on the URC, and the boss is concentrating on not losing his job. I think they sent a heavily. When I saw who was playing Gloucester, there it is. There's the big orange shirt.
Is that the jersey in the pic at the opening that I found of you, Johnny?
I think this is actually worn by, I think, Pierre Schumann, Edinburgh Champions Cup jersey.
I thought it was Jamie Ritchie's one.
That doesn't
Jamie Ritchie's on for.
It doesn't look Pierre Schumann size to me.
This one was left unattended. You'd be amazed how small those pro tops are, by the way.
Can I just say that
this one is 3XL.
Glasgow loving Johnny McGinty and knows an incredibly big Edinburgh fan. Has that jersey made its way over to me? No. It's still
not yet. Do you know what it is? I need to confirm exactly whose it is, because if it was Pierre Schumann's, then there's somebody next door that's going to want it because he loves Shuey. But if it wasn't,
who doesn't? Come on,
its way down to you.
Well, by the way, I mentioned that Edinburgh sent a heavily rotated side. Is heavily rotated one of the nicest, friendliest euphemisms ever? It always makes me think of when Lisa Simpson became president and she renamed the massive tax hike a refund adjustment.
Yeah, heavily rotated.
Nicer than bin juice, that's for sure.
It is better than bin juice,
which
that's
is what
for
I was
sure. But I looked at the side and went, "Oh my God!" And then you saw the side that Gloucester were putting out, and I'm thinking, "Oh, we're in for an absolute shellacking." But I was thoroughly encouraged by their Edinburgh's defence, and they just, the problem I have with Edinburgh, and it's the same thing, and it seems to be the same thing with the whatever you want to call the bin juice, or the heavily rotated side, or the youngsters that are needing a chance. The problem is they get too over ambitious and they give away far too many penalties, and that's what cost them on the night. If they hadn't given so many penalties away, they probably would have had it would have been a closer game.
The fun thing to watch when it's a completely rotated team, that means 1 through 15, they're like, this is our chance, and the energy level is kind of extra, and it ends up leading to dumb penalties, but sometimes it's just exciting, at least for the first 20 minutes.
Yeah, okay, you can call it exciting. It's usually my sphincter is incredibly tight at the time, because it's usually you're expecting them to get scored on more than someone at prom. But we'll wait and see. Yeah, let's we'll see what happens next game. I think I'm trying to forget. I've forgotten what the next Edinburgh game is, but it's at home at least.
Jonny, is Nathan Sweeney the slowest winger in all of Europe? Like, he had a fantastic breakaway at one point, and I'm watching and I honestly thought, oh no, he's done his hamstring. Like, no, he was fine. He just didn't make it.
So someone with my Bronco time can't really give out at other wingers for being slow. But it's definitely not the main part of his game, is it? Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
He brings other things to the table, and speed is not necessarily one of the main ones.
Well, did either of you notice, like, at halftime, both teams decided, oh, that's halftime and we're leaving, and they all started to leave, and the ref was like, hey, come back here. It's a scrum. And everyone was like, damn it. It was so weird. I don't know. It looked like both teams were like kids when they expect a snow day, and then they wake up and their parents are like, come on, got to get the bus. And they're like, what?
I think it's more the fact that both teams know that they're not going to win the Challenge Cup, so they're kind of just at that point where they go, yeah, okay, we're getting on with this. Mind you, I suppose Gloucester are kind of trying to, because the side they put out was quite a substantial side, and
for Gloucester.
But I think they also realised that, or Skirrington, from what he is well reported in the press, that he was expecting the same team that played against Benetton and slapped Benetton around. So he was waiting on all these big players coming down, and all of a sudden they.
Oh, this is completely off my script, but I've been meaning to ask somebody this, and you guys are perfect people to ask. In the NFL, you're required to list, injuries. There's different lists like probable, questionable, injured. Tom Brady spent 20 years listed as questionable, even though everyone knows he's going to play. But just because Belichick's like, I got your stupid rules right here. But there's no skullduggery in rugby. Like, if I'm about to play team next week and they have an Antoine Dupont, right? I'm going to spend my week thinking, okay, how do I deal with that? But why doesn't Toulouse go, oh, you know what, Anton's he's injured this week, he's not going to play. And then on Friday, be like, oh, actually, he's fine, he's starting. And then the game plan you spent the week, building is out the window. Why is there no trickery like that? Is it against the rules?
No, but the relationship between the press and the teams in Europe is so different to what it is in America. So, like, there's a very limited amount of journalists who have any sort of access, and they're they all work together, and then the teams all work together. And so, what is it they call it? There's a word and it's gone out of my head, which is really annoying, where you get given an interview, but then you can't print it for a couple of days.
It's embargoed.
So people embargoed. That's it. Thank you. So people will get their interviews, and then all the news comes out at the same time. Like, there's not an Adam Schefter in rugby, basically, or an Ian Rappaport. There's nobody saying, "Oh, I spoke to a coach and he says this might happen." Like, we just don't have that. There's no locker room access really at all. Access to players is really heavily controlled. It's just like the press relationship is so different, and there's nobody like reporting stuff off their own back. It's like the same three guys from the same three papers get an embargoed interview, and then they all sit on it until Thursday, and then it comes out in all of them on Thursday. There is one guy in Ireland who quite often says, "Oh, I think this is Ireland's team for Saturday," on like Tuesday, and he's usually right. But it's quite a rare thing to happen.
Well, I don't want to look at too many of these games. I mean, I do, but I'm not going to. Dragons, they were playing the team. I'm really hoping you guys get on board with this. I'm trying to get people to start calling Montpellier Parole City. Teams nowadays like to be like, oh, we're Lob City, we're this city. Like, Parole City is Montpellier, right? It was pissing down rain again, of course. My broadcast had no comms of any kind, but at least they carried the match, I suppose. They showed a whole bunch of obnoxious teenage boys in the crowd, and I instantly got worried for my son. I'm like, oh God, is that what I'm going to be looking at in a few years? My son's 8. Maybe you guys can tell me, how worried should I be about him becoming a teenager?
Well, that's Craig. Mine just turned 8 today, so.
Well, considering I had a conversation with my son this afternoon after coming up the road from the hospital, and he was describing the way that he preloads his drinking at the flat, and then goes out and has a couple of Diet Cokes or a couple of Iron Brews at the pub because it's too expensive. And I kind of thought to myself, oh, I don't want to know how he's using these particular drinks because they're 13% and he'll have a couple of them to get himself set up for the evening. Yeah, be worried. What I would say, however, when you're saying that you saw a bunch of obnoxious teenagers in the crowd, I thought you were looking at the Scotland the Scotland Cup, the Schools Cup fixtures.
Oh, that video is the
video
worst
is
thing.
Awful.
The George Herriot's video with the drum and the flat caps.
Was that Herriot's? I thought that was Merky. And they've got these guys.
Maybe it was Merky, actually.
And they had their Barber jackets on and their flat caps and they're singing the song. And you're just thinking to yourself, oh, take that down.
Yeah.
You're trying to grow.
I was saying to someone that it's like, that's like Scottish for my granddad owns a farm, but my dad's a lawyer. Like in one image.
Yeah.
Dragons lost, of course. By the way, it was 14-18 at halftime, and that was also the final score. Not an exciting game in particular. Bayonne versus Scarlets, and then Black Lion versus Vaughan. I missed both of those. But I went back and checked later. Bayonne beat Scarlets by 1, 17-16. Another gut punch for Scarlets fans. I actually went back and looked.
Penalty as well.
Exactly. They were leading with less than 5 minutes to go. Oy vey, with this team already. It must be so painful. I've got friends who love the Scarlets, and it's like, I just feel.
Yeah, I know quite a lot of Scarlets fans, and they were going through it yesterday afternoon. Like they were not having a good time.
Black Lion ended up beating Vaughan 22-19. It looks like the Vaughan bus is clearly headed straight back to the Pro D2, although I just realized now it's probably not a bus, it's probably a van, right?
The van.
The van.
And I was quite surprised that there was most people came out of there with their ears not chewed or their eyes not plucked out of their head. It was quite, what do you want? A Georgian team against a Pro D2 team? My God, you're just going to get,
For some reason, my Facebook algorithm keeps giving me videos from this like Czech football hooligans site. And it's it's like photos of organised fights in fields between two sets of football hooligans, which is what I assume Black Lion against Vaughan was yesterday afternoon. Like that's about as close as you're going to get.
Yeah, the referees are going to the TMO to match up the teeth marks of which player's teeth marches up with.
They have like the sculpting mold to put on what remains of your ear to get some dental records.
Oh, that's a tight head. A tight head. Right, you're off.
There's a bit of gold in this guy's ear. That's weird. My Connacht team, they were facing Zebre. I mean, kind of a battle of the losers. Instead of skipping the audio this time, they skipped the scoreboard and the clock where I was watching it, so you had no idea what was happening as the game went on. Except to me, and maybe this just is an insight into my negative brain space or something, I kept thinking, Connacht are getting killed. And then by the end, it was 43-12 in favor of Connacht. So strange. Craig, what's your take on Connacht this year? Should I have any hope at all?
No.
You're a fan of a hopeless team. How should I be feeling?
Hang on, let me just hang on while I just take that knife right out the centre of my chest, not in the back, right out the centre of my. Well, first things first. I came home last night from work and sat down and thought, there's going to be European Champions Cup games on. I'm going to switch it on and have a watch. I then put on switched on the streaming service I have, and there's just two channels. One which wasn't uploading at all, and that was the Glasgow game, So I never got a chance to watch much of that. But the other game was Zebre v Connacht. And I was like, I'm going to watch Strictly Come Dancing. This is just, it was more interesting,
I'm depressed. I guess I'll watch this.
Yeah, I'm thinking, just like, oh. And but yeah, it was. The problem they have is Connacht. They've touched on greatness, and they won the URC with Pet Lem, and they really were going to be a fabulous team. And then the Irish Rugby decided to divert all the funds back into Leinster, and Connacht were just, although they have apparently upgraded the race ground, so or the showground or whatever it's called.
Yes, indeed.
So
not just all the funds either. There was a couple of really good Connacht players that Leinster were like, nice players. They play for us now. Thank you.
Yeah. They made an offer they couldn't refuse.
Well,
I like the shape of your players. I like the shape of your players. It'd be a shame if something happened to them, it'd be
a shame if something happened to Bundy Aki.
Yeah, and he accidentally came over to Leinster.
I mean, if Connacht suddenly got Jordy Barrett, would it make a big difference? I'm just not sure.
It would probably make a bigger difference to Connacht than it makes to Leinster.
I can just imagine Jordy Barrett. Oh, signed for an Irish club. Oh, right. That's going to be amazing. He comes up, takes his jacket off, and ends up in the UK. What the heck?
It would be like, do you remember Jake White's Twitter when the Bulls came to Galway a couple of years ago, and on the way over he was like tweeting being like, oh yeah, we've seen weather before, we've got weather in South Africa, we're not bothered about your weather. And then they arrive and it's just he put up a video of the door of their hotel swinging backwards and forwards and rain passing through the door, and he's like,
I thought you were going to say the team bus just toppled over on its side. Well, I was talking to Alan from the Craggy Rugby Podcast a while ago, to feel bad about our Connacht team, and I asked him, like, what's the worst kick you've ever seen because of that wind in Galway? And he said, at one point we kicked a penalty and went through the uprights and then came right back and came all the way back to the kicker. And I was like, how do you even rule on that? Did the refs take 10 minutes to talk about it? Like, what is the ruling here?
Pete Horn's well known for that.
That's wild.
If I remember correctly, Pete Horn did that. He scored the conversion.
Yeah, Pete Horn did it. Yes.
Yeah.
You should be able to field it, and if you score a try off that rebound, that's an extra try instead of the conversion.
Just amazing. Oh man.
There was other stuff. Lyon, they beat Cardiff 37-26. Didn't see that. Had no intention of watching it. Anything else stand out for you guys this weekend? And by the way, as I said, I haven't seen anything today. What should I, as soon as we actually hang up here, what should I go watch?
Toulouse v Ulster.
Well, that depends, really.
You like Ulster? I get it.
I'm going to go and try and catch a bit of Leinster Bristol.
Oh, Leinster Bristol is going to be yippee, and Jordy Barrett's going to be there because he's.
Oh, is he getting his first start, or is he coming off the bench? Do we know?
I don't know if he's starting. I'm not sure.
I don't know, actually. I have not seen. I can try and check.
Craig, which Barrett would you most like to be?
We were talking about that. My wife and I were talking about that. Funnily enough, not who I would like to be, but just imagine you've got them. You're at a dinner party, and here's our sons have arrived, and here's Bodie, and Bodie coming, hello, how are you doing?
He's on the bench.
And here's Jordy. Oh, hello, how are you doing? I play rugby too. And then in comes what's the other Barrett? And he comes
Scott.
Hello, Scott. I like rugby too.
Do you know there's a fourth Barrett? Imagine how shit it must be being him.
I think there's actually 5. One of them I don't think ever really made a play at rugby. One of them made it like semi-pro and then was like, okay, that's enough. I think there's 2 other Barretts. I think there's
Scott Barrett's the one in the background going, hello, hey you guys, hey you guys.
Well, I think this is my 3rd Simpsons reference, but there's the year when Marge is writing the family Christmas card and she's like, Lisa's doing great, and Bart, we love Bart.
Yeah.
That's Scott. We love Scott. He's fine.
Did you tell me that Geordie's away to Ireland? Oh, that's fabulous. What's happened to Scott? Scott who?
Yes. We love Scott. We hope things go well for him. This is the part of the. Oh, geez, wow! I never even advanced our graphic here. I didn't even put on the Champions.
That's how little
the
you
Challenge
care about
Cup.
You pretended to care about the Challenge Cup, David. And look what you've done.
I know. See,
You've
I
put it
bought
on.
my
You
own.
put it on. Now we're finished.
Though to be fair, the one good thing from this kind of game, I like the little mint green, slight variation on the kit, not a big deal, but I like the mint green, a little different.
I like it. There's been some really nice kits this weekend, actually.
There has been some nice kits. There's been some
I do
outfit
love the
kits,
fact that
but
they
there's been
bother
some
to
nice
make it
kits.
different for Europe. It
Yeah.
just makes it special somehow. Normally, this is when we go through all of next week, go through match by match. That seems silly. Like, this is a weird competition. Based on this week, I can tell you're just not going to know which team is like, you know what? We're going to send the kids, not just the kids, but the kids that the kids babysit as well, because we just don't care until it gets to the knockouts. I think the format has made people take this perhaps less seriously than maybe they used to. But if we're going to look ahead and we look at the pools, Jonny, we already kind of talked about this. The Heineken Cup, as I still, obtusely call it,
Please
we've got
carry
the
on.
4 pools of 6. Is it the top 2 that are guaranteed, and then the next 2 may or may not? Like,
No,
do we look?
all of the top 4 go to the last 16. And
the
the
top
top
4
2
in
from
every
each
pool?
are the
Okay.
they're the home seeds. So if you're a top 2 team, you get a home last 16 game, and then your third and fourth places they go away in the last 16, and then your fifth place teams they go into the Challenge Cup, and then your 4
Okay.
6th place teams are out.
Well, that's
It's just
what I
too
would
many
look at.
games. There shouldn't be a last 16.
The top 2 is what I would like to look at least. So, if we're looking at the pools in the Heineken Cup, Pool 1, of course, Exeter, Sharks, Leicester, UBB, Toulouse, and Ulster. Craig, who are the teams that are the top 2 out of that pool?
Sorry, I was looking at next week's fixtures actually, rather than the pools. Let me find the pools.
By the way, once again, another example of how you have a great partnership. I was like, honey, I can't look at the pools, but I need to write them down, because if I look at them, I'll see what happened in all the games I haven't seen yet. She's like, got it. She goes to the website. I'm writing them down. Perfect.
So just do me a favor. Just go through them again.
Yeah. It's the Exeter Chiefs, the Sharks, Leicester Tigers, my UBB, Toulouse, and Ulster.
Oh, well, Toulouse.
Toulouse, obviously.
Toulouse, I would say...
Double French? Toulouse and UBB?
Yeah.
They look like the best teams on paper to me, but...
Yeah.
I think that's who I would have gone for.
Yeah, I think they're the top 2. Well, looking at what the, because I'm looking at next week's games and I'm looking, that's going to be a win for them. That's going to be a win for them. It's not. There's no close games coming out of it from what I can tell. So I definitely think UBB and also I think Toulouse. Well, Toulouse are going to wipe the floor with Exeter. So yeah.
Yeah. Pool 2 is Claremont, who are better than I thought. Bath, who I just worry about. Benetton, Bristol Bears, Leinster, and La Rochelle. La Rochelle have not been good in the top 14 this year, but it looks like they're ready for Europe. Jonny, who are your 2 teams in Pool 2?
Oh, it's the 2 that are playing just now. Bristol and Leinster, I reckon, are the ones to beat.
Bristol? Yeah?
Bristol have been wild, and if they focus on,
Alona Mar doesn't get to play
Champions
for the men's Bears, right?
and I think if they put their focus on the Champions Cup, and that's the thing, they've been flying in the Prem, so maybe they want to focus on the Prem. If they focus on the Champions Cup, they're good enough to be a top 2 team. It's Leinster and one other, and it's probably either Bristol or La Rochelle, I would think.
Craig, I can pencil you in for Leinster, I imagine. Who's your other top 2 team?
I have to agree with Johnny McGinty for the first time for a long time. I think
still Bears.
Yeah, because I honestly feel
Over
that
Bath.
La Rochelle have. I forgot about Bath. There's then maybe it'd be Bath because Bath have.
The thing is, like,
Bath just lost their first game though.
it's
So
as much as it's it's like you've got these 4 games to play and pretty much everyone's going through. I think in terms of getting one of the top seeds at a home last 16 game, once you've lost your first game, it's really difficult to get that.
Yeah.
But they see Bristol.
Like, I think
Bristol will lose their first game. You see.
Do you think so? I'm going to go and watch the second half and see what happens.
Craig, final answer. Are you going with the Bears?
No, I'm gonna go with Bath because Bath really have got a championship winning side. That if you look at the depth that Bath have, Bath have got phenomenal depth, and I think they're going to win. They've got a good chance of doing a double this year.
Finn was mediocre this weekend.
Yeah, but Finn mediocre. You would have a mediocre Finn on your team every day and twice on Sundays.
You're right. Yeah. Pool 3, Craig. We've got Cast. We've got Munster. We have Northampton Saints, Saracens. This is a good pool. The drink boxes, Stade Francais, and of course the Bulls, who should be better than they are. This is a loaded pool. Who are our top 2 for you?
Munster, and I would probably say Saracens.
Johnny?
Yeah, we're on the same page again. It's it's hard to see past them for me, I think.
See, this is why the Scrum of the Earth is like an oasis for the Scottish Rugby Pod, because you all come on here and I get you to agree with each other. We come together. We come up with new words for sweaters. Johnny, the final pool aptly named Pool 4. It's the Stormers, the hospitalized Stormers, my Tory Harlequins, Glasgow, Racing, Toulon, and Sale. I got to pencil you in for Glasgow right off the top. Who's your others?
Yeah, do you know what? I don't want to, but I'm going to say Glasgow. I think that was a complete performance on last night. I think they look like a team that are prepared for the Champions Cup this year. I think we kind of got burned by going away to Quins in the last 16 last year, so I think there'll be a bit more focus on it. So I don't want to, because it is a good pool, and I hate to back them and get made to look like an idiot, but I'm going to say Glasgow. And I'm going to say Toulon, I think. It's hard. Like, the French teams are so hard to call, but they just looked quite up for it yesterday.
Toulon are one of my favorite teams to watch when they're at home. They do the pilu. The atmosphere is absurd compared to other places, but you just never know which Toulon you're going to get week in, week out. Craig,
I think going away to South Africa and winning makes a big deal. Like, especially for a French team.
It's funny because it was the only place that should have been nice out this weekend, and of course it rained like crazy in a couple of days. Craig, who's coming out of Pool 4?
A bunch of French teams couldn't be bothered to send full squads to England, and they'd sent a good enough team to South Africa to win. Like, that shows you what they are actually thinking about this competition this year. So
it's one of the things I love
for a
about
French
this.
team to do that's a big deal.
Yeah. Craig, you're going to go Stormers Sale? No, just kidding.
No, I'm going to be double French. I'm going to say Toulon and Racing. Racing, even though they've got Stuart Lancaster and his son playing, they might buck the trend and actually win. But I think Glasgow look great, and I'm not doing them a disservice by, I might be doing them a disservice by missing them out. But I think they are probably more of a disruptor team in this championship than they are a championship winning side. Now, Exeter were a disruptor team and they went and won it. So, but Exeter had a certain thing that they did, and that was they got you into their 22 and then they absolutely hammered the door down and bludgeoned the door down, and that's how they won games. So I have to, I think Glasgow have an opportunity, and I will be over the moon absolutely over the moon to see them getting close to a final, because I'll never hear the end of it. But I will be happy for them if they can get closer to the final. But I've got a feeling there's just a level of class.
Last Monday and Tuesday, as no squads are announced, I was trying to think, okay, what team is going to send the kids? Which team is going to say, you know what, I don't really care about Europe and I'm going to concentrate on this. I thought Glasgow is my leading contender for, why don't we forget about Europe for now? Just the chance to repeat is so huge, and it seems legit. And I thought Franco might have been like, you know what, we're not going to send the big guys for Europe, but it seems like they're all in. Maybe they're trying for a double.
But that's the thing, though. You have to look at, for example, last week's game for Glasgow. Was it last week's game? And Glasgow will send. They had to rest a certain amount of Scotland players, so they rested the forwards, and they brought along the Scotland players in the backs. They will, Glasgow have the ability, and we've talked about this before, that Glasgow have the ability to put out a side that you go, who? And they will still win. And that's where Glasgow are dangerous. They have got this ability that they can bring in. They win with teams that with as John Anderson said to Jamie Batty's disgust, they can bring the bin juice and they can still win. And that is, that's the difference between a good team and a championship winning team. I just don't think. I think the teams that they're up against know more. If they went up against a Sale side that was full of their standard players, the players that play in and out of the Premiership, they may have had a harder game.
Is there something inherently wrong with a competition where you're in a pool of 6, but you only play 4 games?
Yeah,
I like it. I have to defend it every year because the format's not going to win. People are still really angry about it. But I don't see what an extra game against the Stormers does for Glasgow. Like this concept of separating you from your home league in the European games, I really like. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
It plays into the old adage that I was talking to you earlier on about how I get excited seeing other teams playing teams that they haven't played before, and I think that it plays into that.
I love that. That's why Black Lion being in there, Cheetahs being in there. Quickly on what you love to call the Diddy Cup. By the way, that's become a much more scathing indictment with the recent developments around the former P. Diddy. I'm not sure if we.
Let's not go there.
It seems like a lot. That league is a lot worse. But
yeah,
you get to fill the Challenge Cup up with baby oil if you win it.
Oh. I definitely shouldn't have brought that up.
That's if you get to hold on to the cup. If you can keep a hold of the cup.
Yeah. There's a big cup out in the backyard too.
And to think that's where Wes Goosen thought he was. He thought he could have slid in.
Even Jimmy Page must be like, I can't believe I hung around with that guy. So
either that or there's a lot of people out there going, why did I not hang around with that guy?
Yeah, that was my high school football team.
Yeah.
So in the Diddy Cup, there's only 3 pools, of course, because one is waiting to be filled with the detritus of the Champions Cup.
Can I just say that's the bullshit bit of it? I'm sorry, I don't mean to swear, but I have sworn. I think if you get knocked out of the European Cup, you're knocked out. That's the way it is.
Yeah. I also think the players want that too. They're like, our Champions Cup bid didn't win, so now we get to go home and rest for a couple of weeks. No, guess what?
Yeah.
You got to go play the Cheetahs.
We're going to Tbilisi. Brilliant.
Yeah.
In the winter time. Tbilisi in -10.
Yay. I can't wait to go to Georgia in December. So, as I said, only the 3 pools. Johnny, Pool 1 in the Diddy Cup, Cardiff, Connacht, Lyon, Cheetahs, yes. Perpignan and Zebre, who, not good. Who are the top 2 teams in there? Are there 2 top teams in that pool?
No, not really. You would like Lyon, but
I suddenly got excited to say Cardiff might be one of the top two teams in that pool. Is that good news?
Cardiff have been not shit this year, which is like
Yeah.
that's the nicest thing you could really say about a Welsh region. So
Yeah.
I'd take them. Maybe them and Leon. I don't know. It's difficult because there's not
I'm hoping
that's
one
the
of these
thing
is gonna take
about there
McConaughey,
being 24 really good teams in the Champions Cup is that there are then not enough good teams for the Challenge Cup. Like there are not good teams in that pool. Cardiff and Leon are probably the best.
Is there a perfect rugby career where you're a really good player and you get good contracts and you play well and people, you get accolades, but your team isn't good enough to make the European knockouts, so you get a couple extra weeks off? Like, is there like I live on the French Riviera.
Sergio Parisse.
Yeah, Sergio Parisse, yeah.
Yeah. Like, I feel like there's some people who figured it out. They got La Dolce Vita and are just like,
that's why Sergio Parisse lasted so long. He's 52 and still playing rugby. That's amazing.
Craig, are you agreeing with Jonny on the Cardiff and Lyon? I'm hoping nobody's going to say Connacht. We don't have a chance.
Well, Connacht, I've got just about as much chance, to be perfectly honest. I think what you've got, they just to use a Simpsons because we're in that way. If you ever remember when you saw Hans Moleman, it was Lisa Simpson had a wee flashback of thinking she was going to marry Hans Moleman, and all the kids kept bumping into each other and then fell out the window. That's kind of all those teams in that pool. They all kind of like they're just going to all just bump into each other, and one of the teams is going to fall out the window. There's just no. You just think to yourself, oh man, quick, let's go and watch the Challenge Cup. Yippee! Yeah,
that does mean the next reference is going to be, I am not some clumsy Clouseau-esque waiter.
So, do you think Connacht are sitting hiding on top of the wardrobe, ready to jump out on them? As out comes Leon, and Connacht are like, it's just one of those. Anyway, it could be Connacht, but I think Leon and Cardiff look a good shout. You could probably remove Cardiff and put Connacht into it, actually.
See, you guys come on the show and you can't stop agreeing. Pool 2, Dragons, Lions, Parole City, Newcastle, Ospreys, and Poe. Woo! That's a pool that has an odor to it, I think. It's a little sulfurous, I think.
The thing is that, like, theoretically, Montpellier are a functioning rugby team, right? Which those other teams are not. Like, categorically, those are not proper teams. Montpellier are, but Montpellier are the most French of all the French teams, and I'd imagine they are absolutely fuming to be in the Challenge Cup and could not care less. So,
that's a good point.
I don't know. Like, you've got to think them and somebody else. But
plus, when you're thinking about squad announcements, you have to look ahead for like parole hearings and court dates.
I think it was Montpellier. It was Montpellier in the Champions Cup, one of the COVID years. We're going away to Leinster and sent just like people you'd never heard of. And you're just like, you are a very big, very serious French team in the Champions Cup. What are you doing? So, like, if they're doing that in the Champions Cup in a game against Leinster, what are they sending to these Challenge Cup games? Like, I don't know. Like, it should be them.
The Lions have to be the best team in this pool, right? When they're on their day, Lions are a good team. They're one of those South African teams that can survive the absence of the Springboks, right?
Yeah, because they haven't got any.
Yeah, Lions is a very young team that are coming through. They're rebuilding. I think they've got a good chance. Actually, I'll tell you, I reckon it's going to be Montpellier, and it's either between Lions or Newcastle, because Newcastle are out there to out for blood. They are upset, and really, Steve Diamond has got them properly. He's put the barricades up and got them really ready to fight. And if you watch some of the rugby that they play, they are out to kill everyone on the field, whether they can or not. And then they've got a little bit of spice in Radwan, etc., who can who can turn on the gas if they can, because they will fight until the end at this moment in time with Newcastle. Newcastle are going nowhere, but you can imagine them winning the Challenge Cup just because they're just so out of the middle of.
I'll tell you what, they're not a team that's focusing on the domestic league, are they? Like
absolutely. Well, yeah.
You,
well, there is.
You want to know what competition Newcastle?
Why would they?
Well, there is relegation this year, so you never know. They could end up.
Is there?
There's relegation this year. Yeah.
Really?
So, yeah, we're just waiting on, because there's even talk. Would you believe that Darlington who have applied to be considered if they win the league or win the championship to go up into the Premiership? Darlington are the closest to Newcastle. You could imagine Newcastle actually all their players, because there's a lot of people saying that their players are going to ship out very, very quickly if they get put down. Darlington would be an easy one to go to because it's just 10 minutes down the road.
There's a team called Darlington? That sounds precious.
If you've ever been to Darlington, it's the least precious place. Precious. Yeah.
So, Craig, I've only got one team out of you so far. That you're saying Montpellier, and are you going for Newcastle? Because I'm going to go for. My pen is trembling as I'm about to.
I'm going with Newcastle. Come on now, I've said that Scotland are going to win the Six Nations, so come on now.
That's true. You've said Edinburgh are going to win the URC for the last 3 years in a row, I think so.
Yeah, and I will be right one day.
It's true. Jonny, Montpellier and the Falcons?
Tell you what, put me down for Lions instead of Newcastle. We'll make it a little bit different. I'm fully on board with everything that Craig's saying, but I think that's another one of those toss-ups, so I'll take the other side of it.
So, Lions and Montpellier?
Yeah.
Okay. The final pool, we've got the Black Lions in Pool 3. We've got Bayonne. We've got Edinburgh. We have Gloucester. Wah, wah. We've got Vaughan, and we've got the Scarlets. Scarlets are too snake bit to do anything. Like, even if they have the best performance of their life, something's going to happen. Somebody's going to be like, oh, my shoe's untied. Like, they're just that kind of team right now, right? Jonny, starting with you, who are the top two teams in Pool 3? I want it to be Black Lions.
It's not. Bayonne and Gloucester, probably. Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to go with Bayonne and Gloucester. Yeah.
And Gloucester. Wow.
I think Gloucester are mid-table enough in England that they can make a run at the Challenge Cup if they want to. Edinburgh have clearly shown that they're not interested in the Challenge Cup. Otherwise, Edinburgh have got the squad to be a top team in that pool, but they just don't want to.
It does seem that way. Jonny, are you in contact with professionals who can talk to you about these mental health issues that have led you to believe that Gloucester's good? Blink twice if you feel
hang
safe.
on. Can I just be clear that I did not say that they were good. I said they're better than Van and Black Lion.
Oh wow. I can hang up my call to the social worker.
Just to be absolutely clear, not one team in the Challenge Cup is good. Apart from
wait a minute. Come on. Well, let's be fair. Edinburgh really should be good.
Well, they spend enough money.
I'll stand by what I said. Edinburgh could be good if they wanted to, but they've shown pretty clearly in the first week that they don't care. So.
Guys, it's the coach, right? They need a damn coach, right? The interim coach who's now kind of the coach. Nobody's bought in. There's no scheme. There's no culture. They need a coach.
I couldn't agree.
They do need to change a coach.
Yeah.
I don't know if a change of coach would make them care more about the Challenge Cup, but they need to change a coach.
No, the roster looks great. The coach.
Yeah. You have to be in a situation where if you everyone, there's a lot of people out there, especially in Scotland's rugby land, who absolutely pull the Scotland Stars who play for Edinburgh apart, saying how they are. That's terrible. They're terrible people because they don't try hard enough for Edinburgh and this, that, and the other. But they perform for Scotland. And the bottom line is they have a fantastic game plan in place for Scotland. And they don't, they are doing what they're being told because Ben Healy has been doing what he's been told, questioned it, and then ended up in the A's. So, he, allegedly. So I thought I'd just say that just in case.
That kills me. You and I, we've been talking about Ben Healy for a long time. And I was like, one of the most, yay, Ben Healy gets to come here. I love that guy. And it's been downhill. Like, he had this amazing season for Edinburgh where he scored all their points. They were completely reliant on him. And then they're like, screw you. You can go play with the kids and you're not getting picked ever. And we don't care about your career. It's killing me with the Ben Healy thing.
It really is. And it just says a huge amount. I've talked about this before, but on my side of things, I just feel that that Edinburgh has become two things. It's become very staid. I don't think the coach is good enough for Edinburgh, and because of that, the Scotland stars that are signed for Edinburgh have decided that playing for Edinburgh is their what's the word? Is their rest and their retirement fund. They have to play. They have to play. To pull on the Scot. They've almost got the Scotland shirt guaranteed, so they go to Edinburgh, and no matter how they play for Edinburgh, they're going to get called up into the Scotland squad. They're going to perform on the training field, and then they're going to play and perform on. You've got your Duhan van der Merwers, you've got your Jamie Ritchies, you've got you've got your Schumans, etc. Now, I can't call into question Pierre Schumann because Pierre Schumann plays for Edinburgh. He's an incredibly proud man and incredibly strong man, but
and a nice guy.
And a nice guy. But you've got when you look at a squad where the basically the kids and what we would laughingly call the bin juice almost turned over a full weight Gloucester team. I could see all of the big Scotland players coming down to Gloucester. They would either beat Gloucester very, very well, or they would let them. They would absolutely get slapped about by Gloucester. And I think that a lot of these Scotland players who play, who are nailed on Scotland players like Grant Gilchrist, Jamie Ritchie, etc. I've said this before, should be away playing in different teams. And going and let.
You've talked about this on the pod. It's a great point. I think it'd be so valuable. Like, it does feel like they're mired down and just kind of spinning their wheels in the mud. If I can keep adding more and more metaphors, but you're absolutely right. Fresh change of pace, new perspective, new coach, new system.
They need their mind sharpened. Yeah, they need their mind sharpened.
Once
they need
Tom Jordan does that, future Glasgow standout Ben Healy will become recuperated. That's for sure.
That was rough.
Yeah, but the problem is, David, I know that's going to happen. If
that's 100% what's going to happen.
Because
really?
they're currently looking at a squad. Tom Jordan's going to go. Who are Glasgow? They can't dig Dunky Weir back out of the ground and bring him back in and say, right, come on, Dunky, you're going to win us a URC title this year. They can't. Adam
now at
Hastings.
Least 3 months to see Adam Hastings again.
Yeah, and you've got Adam Hastings walking around with a black cloud over him for some reason, and he's got death from Bill and Ted just sitting there sharpening his scythe behind him. He's the most jinxed player I've ever seen in my entire life. So they're going to have to bring someone in. And as we know, and we've talked about this, David, Ben Healy is a phenomenal player.
I love him.
He is an amazing player, and he has been absolutely and utterly sold down the river by Edinburgh, and
I did read that it's because he questioned out loud the coaching, and then they were like, you know what?
Yeah,
you're out of here.
I'm going to teach you a lesson. All right, what? You're going to teach me a lesson that you're a shit coach? Yeah. So it's just, or a bad man manager at least. And this is, So anyway, I could take up this probably another hour of this podcast complaining about Edinburgh and Sean Everett.
Which Sith Lord is the current Edinburgh? No. Okay, final questions. I need to get you guys out of here. I don't want to go through all the knockouts. It's way too theoretical at this point. But, Jonny, the Heineken Cup final, who do you want to be in the final, and who do you think is going to be in the final?
I want Glasgow to be in the final. I don't think it's massively realistic, but having said that, I think it's a lot more realistic than it's ever been before.
Yeah. So Glasgow facing off against.
I mean, if it's who do I want Glasgow to play in the final?
Yes. First question is who do you want?
That's not an option.
Who do you want to be in the final? Well, so you're going to say Glasgow versus Cheetahs.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, yes. Glasgow Bath would be an exciting final. I'd take that.
That's
That would be a good
great
watch.
shout. But who do you think will be in the final?
It's going to be Toulouse at Leinster again, surely.
Is it the 5-star year?
Nope, it's the 7-star year.
uh,
I want to let's just keep the references going. I want to see the exact moment that their hearts break. I want to see them get stomped by Toulouse again.
If you look closely,
sign me up
you
for
can
that.
see
Just
the
happening
exact
every
moment
year.
where his heart breaks. So Toulouse is also your champion. I love it. Craig, who do you want to be in the Heineken Cup final, and who do you think will be in the Heineken Cup final?
I know what you mean. I am absolutely and utterly incensed that I'm going to have to say this, but I would love to see Glasgow and Bath in the final, because I'd like to see Finn Russell absolutely turn his old club over and break all the Glasgow hearts. I think that would be.
Mean.
I know it was unnecessarily mean. I apologise, but I think.
Though Johnny, when you said that you would like that, you did open that door for that to happen. That could be a real thing.
Yeah, and I think also it'd be interesting. I would really, because I really believe in this player, but I'd really like to see Ollie Lawrence against Sione Tuipulotu.
Oh.
Because
Lions preview.
Yeah, that's basically it. I would love to see, because you've got to think of a lot of people have been saying that Sione Tuipulotu is nailed on going to the Lions. I think he is, and I think he will go, but I think Ollie Lawrence should go as well, because he's been pairing up with Finn Russell, who is pretty much nailed on going to be the Lions 10. You've got Ollie Lawrence, who plays day in day out with Finn Russell, and then you've got Tuipulotu, who plays all his international rugby with Finn Russell. So it's really going to be quite an exciting thing. So I would like to see that. It's going to be Toulouse definitely, because Toulouse are just
they're miles ahead.
Oh, you just look at them and you go, like.
They feel like the international team mixed in with club teams. They feel like, when the Lions go on tour and they're like, oh, we're going to play the Waratahs. It feels like that, right?
Yeah, I could see Toulouse go up against Australia and turn Australia over.
Yeah.
They've got Jack Willis, who turned down playing for England to go and keep playing for Toulouse. You've got... it's funny. I was looking to see if Blair Kinghorn was playing this today, and I looked at it and I was like, "Yeah, where's Blair Kinghorn? He's not on this team sheet." Well, there's Ramos, there's Intimac, there's Thingy Malia at 10 as well, and I'm thinking, like Blair Kinghorn.
Yeah, it's like, BK's out. That means Capuozzo was in. So
yeah, I forgot about Capuozzo as well. And you're just looking at it and you go, let's just throw a dice up. Let's just throw all those names up in the air and see what lands, and go, that's the starting team, because they'll all do exactly the same job. With it's just unbelievable. So yeah, Toulouse, I think, are going to be in the final, and I would also consider. I'm not going to go with Leinster, because I really do think Leinster are broken. So I think you're probably going to see Bordeaux in the final.
Nice.
And I think it's.
Crap.
Hope it's
not
going
to see my Ubebe get smashed again.
But you see, I just like, for example, you got Jalibert there, who is absolutely on a crusade to show France that they've done him wrong. And he's
having his John Wick moment just now, Jalibert.
He is having his John Wick moment at the moment.
Yeah.
And I think Bordeaux really are.
They're so good.
Yeah, it's when where Bordeaux went wrong last year was the fact that they decided to play a typical Champions Cup, finals game, semi-final game. Was it semi-finals they went out, where they tried to control the game, and they tried to we're going to kick and we're going to do this and we're going to defend and we're going to. No, Bordeaux need to come out just on you go, boys. Show us what you can do.
And Craig, who comes out on top for the final?
Toulouse.
Okay. See, you guys.
All that being said, still Toulouse.
Yeah.
You and your agreements.
I'd love to see Bordeaux win it. Don't get me wrong. I'd love to see Racing win it. I think that would be amazing because they've been knocking on the door for so long. But, Stuart Lancaster's son is not going to make Daddy proud.
No, this is not the year for wrestling. Down in the Challenge Cup, Johnny, who do you want to see in the final? And who do you think is going to be in the final? My want, I'll just say, got to be, Cheetahs versus Black Lion. How would that be? How cool would that be? The
That would be
invitational
fun.
teams. That would be cool.
I'm going to say an Edinburgh Cardiff final. I'd like to see. I enjoyed Glasgow being in the Challenge Cup right up until losing the final a couple of years ago. And our thing with the Challenge Cup, we always say is you don't care about the Challenge Cup unless you're in it. And the longer that Glasgow were in it, the more I was enjoying it. So I think if Edinburgh were interested, they've probably got the squad to make it to a final. I'd like to see them because it's a nice thing to get to do.
That's a great.
I think Cardiff are a kind of semi-functional team, so why not? I guess that's a team that could be in the final. As far as who I think is going to actually be in the final, Montpellier and Harlequins.
Oh,
I think Harlequins take a 5th spot in the Champions Cup and go down into the knockouts and get all the way to the final.
That's a great shout, and actually potentially good news for me and my Tory leanings. Craig, who do you want to be in the Challenge Cup final, in the Puff Daddy Cup?
I want an Edinburgh Bristol final.
And I want estimate Bristol quite a bit right now. Interesting.
Yeah, and I want Edinburgh to overturn Bristol and say, "See, we can play fantastic rugby and beat the best at it." But sorry, wake up, Craig! Wake up, Craig! So, who I think it's going to be? I think it's going to be a Bristol. I think it could be a Bristol-Leon final.
Wow. Okay.
Although I never even chose Leon.
I know, I love that. That was a left field one for sure. Craig, who wins the Challenge Cup this year? By the way, I'm shocked that neither of you are anywhere near the Sharks. Nobody mentioned the Sharks. Sharks won the Challenge Cup last year. They're kind of refining their groove right now, except for the discipline. It seems like Sharks could be in a good position right now, but
I don't know about Johnny, but I'm currently on a South African boycott. Nothing to do with apartheid or anything like that. Just because I don't think they should be in the championship. It's not. They're not European.
One of these days they'll end that.
One of the days they'll stop. One of the days they'll get rid of that that archaic.
Have you seen Stephen Biko speak? Because he's
They're going to have a proper South African president, and they'll get themselves sorted out down there.
I think Sharks caught lightning in a bottle last year, and I can't see it happening again. I think the whole basing themselves in the stoop for the knockouts was a really smart idea. I think they kind of got a lot of buy-in from the population with the city with the most South Africans in the world, which is obviously London. And I think they kind of had all that going for them in one time, in one go. And I just I don't see that being a thing that happens again. I think that was a one-off.
Okay. But we're on Craig. Who's winning the Challenge Cup?
I'm going to say Bristol takes it.
Wow. And AJ McGinty, the most prominent USA player of all, is on Bristol, and I just never trust them. So this it's a weirdly encouraging thing for me to all being like, oh,
AJ McGinty is one of the most underrated 10s I have known.
He's brilliant.
He is amazing. And it really
speaking to my heart right now.
It's amazing. Although I can't get behind these project players that America have been signing. They should be dealing, all these project players that are just.
You're talking about Dougie Fife.
Dougie Fife for the fifth for America.
The original try machine.
The original try machine, Dougie Fife.
For us, he was.
AJ McGinty is a phenomenal talent.
So I'm so gratified to hear you say that because I love AJ, of course. But my whole thing with AJ has always been he spends way too much time with his face in the dirt. I think it's because playing for the Eagles, he's always the best guy in the field, so he feels like, I need to do all these other things. I need to fix this. I need to cover this area. I need to make this extra tackle. So he attacks rucks. He attacks breakdowns. He tries to jackal. He does all these things where he ends up with his body on the ground. And I'm like, your 10 shouldn't spend that much time on the ground. Am I way off on this?
Maybe that's Bristol's thing, though, because Tom Jordan does that too. So
Okay.
It'll be an interesting one because AJ is one of those players. Where you worry about that, but what I like that about him. He, I don't think, let's just say I don't think he's going to be running a Fortune 500 company when he finishes rugby, or he's going to be able to become a professor of physics, because I think he's taken a fair few knocks, but I think he's definitely looking at a few operations when he's finished his rugby. But he takes the ball to the line. He really, little things like I was watching him last week, and he does this little double pump with the ball, and especially when it's a rush defense or a blitz defense, they come up and he just takes it to them, and they don't know what he's going to give them, and Bristol are really using him well just now, and I thought, I honestly thought, wow, what are Sale doing letting him go to Bristol? Sale should, they're bringing in one of the most boring, most kicking 10s you could ever come across, and they're getting rid of a real jewel in the crown, and they let him go, and Bristol are absolutely loving every minute.
Oh, I just wrote down Johnny saying Bristol. Johnny, who is your pick for the Challenge Cup winners? But I'm a little like, wow, right now, because I'm just like, oh, AJ.
Well, it could be Glasgow as well, by the way. It could be Glasgow, because they could get pumped into the bottom.
They're not going to, but it could be. Montpellier.
Well,
I don't like it any more than you, but they're the most like a team in the Challenge Cup.
What is that international policing body called? Like
Euro. Interpol are getting involved.
Yeah, like if they win the cup, will there be Interpol representatives standing there to like make sure that the cup isn't filled with anything?
Where is the final? Cardiff. They need to check all the restraining orders and stuff as well.
Yeah, restraining order. I tell you, Cardiff's on the bay as well. They could import a few. They could take some of the. They could be loading up with something, taking it home in the medical bags. You never know.
I'm told the transportation to Cardiff itself is the restraining order in a way. So
most of the team are being brought back to Cardiff to stand trial, and so they're getting flown over by Interpol into Cardiff, and they're going to play a game of rugby as well.
Craig, man, Johnny, you guys are the best. I will let you go. Anything to plug for the Scottish Rugby Podcast coming up? Are you guys actually still doing that show, or what's going on?
Oh, we had 1 week off, David. Come on.
Couldn't resist.
And when we had the week off, it was because the only people available were me and Craig, and nobody wants that. That's not.
I was available.
Hey, listen. The only reason we didn't go ahead with that was because I was nursing my ill father. You see, I made you feel bad, David. For that.
Yes,
I made you feel bad.
Well, whatever you got coming up, I will be listening. Obviously, listen to the Scottish Rugby Pod, subscribe on Patreon. It's, my favorite thing of the week. So the only reason I come out here and kvetch that you missed an episode is because I missed it personally. So,
what we would say is that we have completed for all of our transatlantic friends. We have moved over to Blue Sky as well, because we're no longer on the bin fire that is that platform that we don't want to name. So,
I still feel compelled to use it, but Blue Sky's going great. Really enjoying it, and it feels like a new era.
A link that I'm going to send you of all the Harlequins players getting set on fire, so that could get you over.
And that'll immediately go in the Blue Sky. That's going to be great.
That's it. Yeah.
Guys, you are the absolute best. Cheers. Talk to you soon, and be well.
Cheers.
Thanks, David. Bye-bye.
It gives me great pleasure to be here today.
Oh, it does, Nate.
You want to tempt the wrath of the whatever from high atop the thing?